When you want to get your message across, a word of humor might be a good choice.
As China's annual top legislative and political advisor sessions are about to start, let's discuss a few metaphors or analogies President Xi Jinping used in previous sessions and better understand his thoughts of governance. Joining me today is David Ferguson, an editor of the English version of Xi's books Governance of China.
So, David, we know that the economy is one of the most watched topics during the two sessions, and reform is also often touched upon by President Xi. Shall we start with this topic?
Let's go ahead, yeah, sure.
So, this is the first metaphor we're going to discuss today. Gnawing at a hard bone. It's used by President Xi to highlight the importance of courage to deepen reform. So what can you read from this metaphor?
Gnawing a hard bone is quite effective as a metaphor because it's very clear in its meaning. Doing the hard work. So we have to keep working. We must have deeper reform. Deeper reform is essential to China's modernization. It's essential to delivering development, and in order to do that, we're going to have to work a lot harder.
So now we have another metaphor about the reform,
Vacating
the cage to change birds. In 2018, she used this metaphor to stress that structural adjustment, transformation, and upgrading be put on the right track. So what do you think of this?
And what this metaphor refers to is that we have to do things differently as well. He's talking about clearing the cage to make way for new birds. So it's not just a question of doing the same things and working harder, it's also a question of finding new and different things to do. And that's what President Xi is talking about here. He talks a lot about upgrading. He talks a lot about innovation. Innovation is a very core part of the governance of China.
We know that China is also a major agricultural country and is now comprehensively pushing for rural revitalization. In May 2020, Xi compared agricultural modernization to carrying a golden shoulder pole. Well, you know that a typical farmer in China is often depicted as someone like holding a shoulder pole. What do you think of this analogy?
The image that you talk about is a very well-known image in traditional Chinese painting. Agricultural modernization forms another huge part of rural revitalization. And again, it's something that I've personally seen at the grassroots. I've seen people who are developing new and better strains of products. I've seen people who are doing new things in creative ways. So the golden shoulder pole is about agricultural modernization on a large scale in terms of using new modern techniques, in terms of finding creative ways to make use of new opportunities.
So now, David, let's turn to politics. Here is one often mentioned by Xi. A hammer drives a nail. She used this metaphor to urge party officials to improve their conduct and address people's concerns assiduously. So what's your take on it?
And I think it's a very good one. When President Xi talks about driving a nail, the message that he's trying to communicate is that it's hard work and we have to persevere. So we're working with hard things. So we need to deliver repeated blows. That is only one element of effective party behaviour. Party building is really, really important to Xi Jinping's governance. He's calling for perseverance. We need to keep working at the things that people care about if we're going to resolve the problems and if we're going to make progress.
So we just talked about some serious things. Now we turn to something sweet. The next quote is about a kind of fruit. Talking about pomegranate, what would come to your mind?
When I think of a pomegranate, the first thing I think of is a fruit that has a lot of seeds. He's talking about the importance of the ethnic communities of China remaining closely tied together like the seeds of a pomegranate. It's one that he uses a lot. I think it's a really important message that President Xi is sending. The ethnic minorities in China are all part of the nation. They all belong historically to the geographical terrain and the community. And it means that China can and does do a much better job of integrating, of building solidarity between ethnic minorities and the majority. China has always made a huge effort to ensure that ethnic minorities are respected and that their interests are respected. Everywhere I went, I was impressed by the sense that people saw themselves as fundamentally part of the minority group, but also as Chinese, part of the Chinese nation.
So now, with regard to culture, Xi once mentioned this analogy, fountain head, so which indicates that people are the source of literary creation. David, what do you think of this one?
Well, that's an expression that works very well because we have the same expression in English. We use it in the sense of creativity. So that is an analogy that works particularly well in English. People-centered principle is really important. President Xi often talks to the associations of writers or artistic creators. And one of the things that he talks about is cultural confidence, and it's really important. Actually genuinely being confident in your own culture, in your own traditions, in your own customs, in your own artistic creations takes time to develop, and that's why President Xi puts so much emphasis on it. Because if you can build that cultural confidence, it's something within, and then you can stand up and you can argue with adversaries. Then you can talk to people and you can argue with them assertively about the strengths of your system, and that's why that's so important.
Now let's turn to the society. And well, in 2021, China declared that it has eradicated extreme poverty. President Xi used many analogies when addressing the anti-poverty campaign, including these two, killing fleas with a hand grenade and doing
embroidery.
So what do you make of this?
The killing fleas with a hand grenade is a very clear metaphor. We talk about using a sledgehammer to crack a nut, and basically it means the same thing. But the second one was about embroidery. What's embroidery? Embroidery involves very fine, painstaking work, which requires a lot of effort and concentration. And in terms of poverty alleviation and in terms of targeted poverty alleviation, it's particularly valuable because targeted poverty alleviation is a unique achievement in human history. No country has ever tried to do what China did in targeted poverty alleviation. There were still 100 million people living in poverty by around 2012. What targeted poverty alleviation did was devise a strategy that went down to the individual household. It meant individual officials in village communities, knowing every single household in their jurisdiction that was still in poverty, knowing why, what the problem was it health, was it employment, was it education, and having a specific strategy to deal with that household. So it worked right down to the level of individual households. And it was effective because China's system can do that. It can devise a strategy at the highest level, it can roll it down, and it can mobilize people across the whole nation, right down to the grassroots, to act in coordination. And that's the idea of embroidery, fine work. To be meticulous, it had to be targeted, and it had to cover the whole country. It had to be huge. So it was like an enormous tapestry with thousands of embroiderers working at the same time towards the same goal.
Now let's turn to ecology. And ecology is also one of the most important aspects in China's development, and Xi has used the analogies of ice and life to indicate the importance of protecting the environment, and he has cautioned against a sudden break, saying green transition takes time and cannot be achieved overnight. What do you think of these?
I mean, the environment has been critical. The environment is a critical part of Xi Jinping thought, and the way he talks about it brings that message across. The environment is precious as our eyes. We have to respect it, and we have to protect the environment as if it was our eyes. President Xi doesn't just talk about the importance of protecting the environment, he takes a realistic approach to it. You cannot apply a sudden break to economic development. You can do things that help economic development and penalise the environment. You can do things that strengthen environmental protection that penalise economic development. You can't afford to just go all for one or all for the other. You have to find a balance, and that is why President Xi says you can't just put a brake on.
That's really impressed today, and we discussed metaphors and similes she had used during the 2 sessions over the past 10 years by way of the concise and sometimes humorous metaphors. Some complex notions can still turn vivid and much easier to understand.
That's an interesting, when you're dealing with figures of speech, it's very difficult to find something that really translates well from one language to the other. But in terms of the actual words, they're longer and they're more complicated, and they don't deliver the same punch.
Yeah, that shows the power of language. Thank you so much, David. Thank you.